Welcome to the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast, where the legal industry gets real. I'm your host, Etta Rosa, legal consultant, speaker, and founder of Etta Rosa LLC and the Limitless Paralegal Academy. This isn't your stuffy legal studies school lecture. We're talking mindset, money, modern workflows, and how to build a career and a life you don't need a vacation from. Let's cut the fluff, raise the bar, and change the game one conversation at a time. If you like what you hear, feel free to share and send us your feedback. Now let's talk paralegal. In this episode, the conversation is about moving from reactive to proactive in our work as legal professionals and how knowledge becomes one of our most powerful tools. I'm joined by Rahamn Popal to talk about what it means to truly empower ourselves through understanding the laws, the systems around it, and the people we serve. This episode is an invitation to lead with preparation, confidence, and intention, because when we know more, we serve better. Listen in for more. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. I'm your host, Etta, and today I have a very unique, guest. We're going to put it that way because we're going to take this a little twist. We're going to look at these topics that we would normally talk about within a law firm, and we're going to look at it through a different lens. So bear with us. We're going to walk through this, and we're always going to talk about what I love the most, which is being proactive, not reactive. And we're really going to show this in a different light. So bear with us. We're introducing new things, new themes. So welcome to season 6, guys, and welcome to How My Mind Works. So without further ado, I want you to first introduce yourself as the person so that the people understand who you are, where you come from, and kind of what really got you into this specific practice of law, because it's a very niche practice.
Yeah, it really is. Thanks for having me, Etta. It's nice to be here. My name is Rahamn Popal. I go by Ray, though, and I'm a tenants' rights attorney in California. My law firm, the Law Firm for Tenant Rights, operates throughout the state. We take cases in Northern California, Southern California, Central California. I've been practicing for about 10 years now and had my own firm for about 4 years, but in the specific field of tenants' rights for 8 of those years. I started doing immigration deportation defense initially, and then got into the housing rights field because I was just motivated to deal with rising economic uncertainty facing many people throughout the country, specifically in California where I live. So I thought it was just really a great avenue to advocate for people who are in underserved communities and also facing grave economic pressures.
I love that. And I love how you put it because it's a very delicate topic, right? And it's very sensitive to a lot of people. We talk about financial instability. We talk about the unknown, especially now in the current narrative where inflation's becoming a real thing. We all know it's all hitting us. The job market is not looking as prosperous as we thought it would be. And so all this kind of ties into what you do, right? So it really does affect the fluctuation and everything else of everything else. And economics is what surrounds everything. It's what drives everything, our purchase power, where we shop, how often we shop, and where we live, right? So definitely, I know in California it's very different. Um, I guess animal or a different state when it comes to housing, totally different. I know a couple people from California and they can tell me stories. So I thought South Florida was interesting, but California by far takes the cake for sure, for sure, for sure. But in all of this and all of this uncertainty, and it's so funny because I really didn't think about it until this exact moment where my brain just kind of switched. We always, in our consulting firm, we always talk about product being proactive as a thing for case management, skills, taking control of what you can learn, how you can learn it, what resources you have available, what tools you have, all the things. That's how we look at it when we say proactivity. But today we're going to kind of switch the dynamic here, and we're going to look at it more about our personal, how we can take control over that and how that can affect us and transcend in other ways and be more proactive as a tenant or as a landlord or wherever you guys are, even as a homeowner, really. Because a lot of homeowners now, I know here, especially in South Florida, they're looking to become landlords. And rent out their space to go to an investment or to go somewhere where it's a little more affordable to live, which good luck with that because South Florida is ridiculous. Like, you don't get anything anywhere anyway. So, I mean, I have to give it to them, right? They're trying. So hopefully everything goes for the best for them. But yeah, let's talk about being proactive as a tenant and as a legal professional and kind of how that meshes in between, right? Because as legal professionals, we look at our clients in a different lens and we need to see that from the story of the tenant, right? From the story of the person going through the difficulty. So really mirroring those perceptions.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that especially with more longer standing relationships, more traditional, let's say, relationships between landlord and tenants. I think that's definitely shifted over the years as we've seen that we have, corporate landlords now, we have large investment group landlords now. But the way that we historically have thought about landlords, it's more like a smaller entity, a smaller mom and pop shop type situation. And those more traditional relationships generally there was a personal element to it. And if things were going well, you had tenants that were maybe not memorializing things in writing, and landlords who were not memorializing things in writing, and landlords who thought that, I don't have to meet all of the specific, like strict requirements of how I need to raise the rent or how I need to charge utilities, and tenants not necessarily putting in writing each time there was an issue with mold or water leaks. And then when things go south, there's no evidence, no written evidence, and there's only kind of verbal communications, and it's hard to corroborate the story of what's happened.
Yeah. Always. I think that's like the rule of law, right? Have everything in writing.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
that it's definitely how that goes. So we talk a lot about the do's and don'ts and kind of how we proceed with that with our legal matters, right? So kind of how can we do our do's and don'ts when it comes to, well, landlord tenant. Obviously, let's get everything in writing and don't do anything, spoken. And if you do, follow it up with an email pursuant to our conversation as of this date, da 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 da. So that's definitely something that you've already alluded to, but how there's so much more, right? Like there is so many other things that we kind of have control over in ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the key things is that everyone is super stressed out in their lives because of who you can count nameless things that's going on, but especially when you're dealing with like the last thing that you want to be dealing with, especially how important the home has become because we're not only just living out of it now, increasingly we're working out of it post-pandemic. So when you're dealing with a situation that's difficult in your home that you don't have control over as a tenant, and maybe even as a landlord, you're feeling like you don't have control over it either because you're not there and you don't know exactly what's happening. There's a tendency to, when you are putting things in writing, uh, context is important, and the context doesn't always come out great. And so there's a tendency to put things in pretty harsh words on
Mm,
both sides. And you always want to look at like worst case scenario, I may have to go and file a lawsuit. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but that's how I think of it as an attorney. Like by the time you come to me, things have already kind of devolved to a point where you're uncomfortable enough to talk to an attorney about what happened. So we have to think about,
mm,
okay, how is 12 strangers on a jury going to look at these communications? And if you're being really gruff, in the text conversations and the email conversations, that's not going to look great for you. So leading with some amount of grace and humility on both sides, I think is super important. Not only because you want to think about worst case scenario, but also just to preserve that relationship as much as you can for as long as you can. Because if you're getting along, there's more of a likelihood that things won't go south instead of if you're kind of antagonizing each other.
I love that. And always lead with grace, right? And that goes for both our professionals and anybody going through a situation like that. We always we get our emotions, right? Our emotions sometimes get in the way. And it's so funny because it reminds me of a conversation that I had with my 9-year-old recently about, sometimes we have to control our emotion. She's a very emotional creature, and that's actually one thing that I honor in her because she's a very beautiful, pure soul. And so she feels everything, right? So whether it's anger, whether it's love, whether it's stress, whether it's, anxiety, whatever label it, she feels it to the fullest. And a lot of people don't, right? A lot of people just like snap out of it and keep going. And so that's how I was raised. I was raised to like, okay, feel it, get over it, and move on kind of person. And now I see my daughter complete opposite. Like, no, I'm not ready to move on. I need to feel the feels. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's how you should normally. Okay, I get it. But we talk a lot about how to do that, right? And the appropriate ways to do that. Yes, you have a valid reason to feel angry. You have a valid reason to feel stressed or anxious, and I hear you and I see you and I understand you, but there's certain places, certain times, and certain things that you can do in order to feel the feels, right? So like no, you can't punch your brother because your brother did something to you. Like, no, that doesn't work that way. Just because you're angry, like, no. So there's like, there's limits, right? And we talk a lot about language in our house and how to use it and how to use proper words because our 7-year-old was a little delayed in speech. So we talk about him and we say, okay, sweetie, well, in this context, that word is not really what that means. It depends on how you use it and this and that and whatever. We're not going to talk about the word. That was a whole other conversation I had with him actually this morning on our way to school. Um, so, anyways, what I'm trying to say is, guys, we're trying to tie this in and really show you guys in storytelling is what I love to do anyway, and it's relatable. Is sometimes we got to be very selective with our words. I'm not saying we have to, well, yeah, we have to filter ourselves, obviously, because everything that we're thinking we cannot say. And unfortunately, we've passed that age. We're not young enough and we're not old enough, okay, guys? So we got to kind of find the sweet in betweens, but it can hinder us as well. Sometimes they say words can be sharp as knives, and that is very true. Your tongue is the most powerful thing when you're using those words, and that goes for anything. That goes for your professionalism with the client. Sometimes the client is obviously angry, they're anxious, they're in this rut, they're in this situation, and you're their punching bag at that moment, right? You're the one that's actually listening and you're the one that's actually picking up the phone. So you just kind of have to put yourself in those shoes and be like, okay, it's not towards me, it really has nothing to do with me. They're going through this, they're going through something. What can I do? What can I say? How can I de-escalate the situation? Is there somebody else better fit for this particular situation? Am I getting too personal? Am I getting too triggered? Self-evaluation is everything, guys. We definitely have to do that as well. But in order to do that, we have to have some resources and we have to have some takeaways and some tangible things. So any suggestions, any like takeaways or any resources that you can give our legal professionals on how to really, I mean, this is difficult, right? Tenant landlords, a lot of people think it's like, it's a contract thing. And yeah, there's a lot to it. So it's not really just about contract. It's about everything that happened outside the contract, outside the four walls. So, anything that you have for our audience that they can possibly take away from this?
I mean, I think each place is different. I think that definitely there is a belief, just like what you said, that, the contract is king and whatever's in there is what the rules are. And as a landlord, I'm going to enforce it. And as a tenant, I'm going to expect it. But in reality, because it's such a unique situation and there is such a differential in power between
Right.
the landlord and the tenant, the legislatures throughout the country have had to step in and create a more even playing field so that there are greater protections afforded to tenants. And so we've seen throughout the country, and especially highlighted during the pandemic, that there's been a step towards enhancing the protections of tenants. So if you believe that the contract is all that governs, do your research because it may not be. You may be in a place where there are local protections that have been afforded to tenants that are greater than what your contract provides. There may be what's called eviction protections, which means that in certain places um, where the contract expires, the landlord can't just tell the tenant, "Hey, contract's done, you got to get out of here." That would potentially violate the eviction protections that the tenant have. So you got to be careful. You got to do your homework. You may have to talk to an attorney. You can really
Please.
research yourself first, but it's always good to get legal counsel.
Yeah, absolutely. No, no bias there. No, definitely. And the hesitation I feel like sometimes in working in the legal industry long enough, I always ask clients, what took you so long? Because this has been a long battle that you've tried to do and attempted on your own. And as of recent, though, I've seen a lot more paralegals trying to do this on their own, and I'm just like, you know better. Like, you know better, right? Like, you, above all people, right? They come to me and they ask me these things, and I'm like, girl, just get an attorney. Like, I'm not understanding the issue here. Well, I can't afford it. I'm like, well, you're gonna lose out a lot more if you don't get an attorney. So yeah, there's certain situations. Guys, even if it's just a free consult, just to get, your feet wet and really get some guidance, like, I mean, do it, it's really important and practice what you preach. I mean, you've seen the repercussions of not getting proper legal counsel or protection. I mean, you've seen what can happen if we let it get too far. You've seen what can happen if we just let it linger there and see if it'll figure itself out. Like, it's not happening. It's not happening. It's not going to fix itself. It's not going to do anything like that. So, totally agree with you, Ray. I love everything that you've introduced to this episode. And I love that you picked such a niche, right? I don't know a lot of attorneys that really focus on this specific thing because I know you also, aside from that, you focus on certain types of disputes, right? If I recall correctly in one of our prior, you don't take all of these types of cases. There's certain ones that you guys specialize in. Which one are those?
Yeah, so when we think about like housing rights and we think about like evictions, there's two different types. There's the defensive eviction where you're the tenant that the landlord is trying to kick out. And then there are affirmative wrongful eviction cases. So we handle those affirmative cases where we are representing tenants who are suing their landlords for being wrongfully displaced or facing severe amounts of harassment or living in slum-like conditions. Those are the cases that we take.
I love that. And I think those are the ones that make the most impact too, because they have been already displaced. It's already happened. And here they are like, what are you doing to me? So I love that. I love that there's attorneys out there that focus on that as well, especially in California. I remember on one of my visits, there was literally like homeless
Yeah.
like communities. They all had tents and they all had everything. And it's the situation over there. You can see a lot more how severe it is. So that's great. Kudos to you and your team. I'm sure you guys are doing great things for your community and continue to do so. Thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you for taking the time and being patient with me today. And until next time, until justice is served. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Etta.
Hey Legal Pros, are you ready to stop playing small? The Limitless Paralegal Academy is officially open, offering powerhouse courses, real world tools, and expert led training to help you build the career and life you actually want. We're not stopping there. The Limitless Paralegal Tour is hitting the road. We're bringing the mindset shifts, career strategies, and community straight to your city with epic speakers, actionable sessions, and zero boring PowerPoints. This isn't your average CLE. This is your legal career reimagined. Join the Academy, meet us on tour, become the legal pro everyone remembers. Visit limitlessparalegalacademy.com to enroll and grab your ticket now. Be bold, be brilliant, but most importantly, be limitless.